Alright, welcome back everybody. It's Legit Vocals here. I know I've been away for a while and there's a lot of things I wanted to make a video on. But I want to address how I think solo leveling affects our current meta, especially going into Virginia, which is happening in about 2 weeks from now, being the first Union Arena Regional this year. Myself and other D3 members will be going there. We have been playtesting a lot of solo leveling these last 2.5 weeks, and I want to give my opinion on them, where I think they fall in the meta, and honestly, where I think they will fall in Virginia. As you see, I don't like to do SABC because overall, there's some lists and some decks that can just get there with the right pilot. So I like to do decks that I think will win the event / top 8, top 16, top 32, top 64, and then based on pilots. There's a lot of other decks I could put on this list, but these are the main lists I think I will see based off my experience from LCQ, from Nationals, so on and so forth. And the reason why I choose 8, 16, 32, and 64 is based off pricing. With this new round robin of regional prizing, top 64 is the entry point to get a random prize card. Top 32, you get, I think it's more promo packs and the AP. Top 16, I think it's also another AP. Top 8 is top 16 is another 2 random cards. And then top 8, you get a whole set, and then if you win the whole event, you get another set. So really, top 8 is what you want to be striving for, while top 16 is good, top 32 is a little bit worse, but a little bit better, and then top 64 is like at least where you want to be with this game. I'll start my way down and work our way up. So in Pilot, I have Green Saitama. We saw even at Nationals, ever since like I played it at Gen Con and then people started playing it at Dallas, people have realized this deck has legs, and into certain decks it can just prove to be a problem for them. But with a lot of these decks that we have in the higher tiers, this deck really suffers in my opinion. That's why I haven't personally played the deck ever since Dallas last year. But it's a deck where I can see people that are devoted to the deck, because there is a couple people out there playing it that will do good with it. Purple Toguro. Purple Toguro has like some of the craziest turns it can, but then also it can just do nothing. So it is a pilot deck for me, where if you are a good pilot and you can make sure you set up your combos and do the things you want to do, you can get there. You literally can push top 64 or better with Toguro. Yellow Bambis, this is literally for our Yellow Bambi stands out there. It does have a good spear matchup, which is like still going to be a very, very prominent deck, as NA Bandai did not hit anything in Ava. So I still think if you think we're going to be seeing a lot of spears, which I still think we will be seeing a good chunk of spears, that Bambi's is still a decent deck into that. Alright, now we break down where anything from top 64 up, all these decks can get top 64. This is just where I think this deck will mostly fall, based off X1, X2, X3 records. So, and there's no preference in where they are in this. They are color coded. So as you can see in the first one, it's red, purple, yellow. Then it's red, green, and then green, purple, and then purple, yellow. I just color code my tier list. There's no reason for certain decks above other decks. I just like to keep things color coded, so you see all purple decks, all yellow decks, stuff like that. In top 64, we have Purple Willy. This is a deck I still is near and dear to my heart. I think this deck is very good. I think once we get the 1-drop Mari Searcher, if we ever get it like we did the 3-drop Asta and the 0-drop Rukia, this deck will be insanely crazy and at full power. But for right now, it takes a good pilot, but if you have the right hand into some of these decks that are only 4k bodies that kind of fill the board, you can get a whole bunch of multi-swings, remove their board, and force your opponent into situations they don't want to be in. So I still think it is a deck that we will see top 64. We did see it at Nationals. It did perform well. So I would like to see this deck go further and go further. Purple Saito. Purple Saito is still a very strong deck, especially if we think we're going to see Red Kenshin, which, surprise, surprise, still a very strong deck. So Saito just keeping Kenshin in check. It could go higher, but I think we have some new decks, and with how it is, some people may like some other stuff. And there is a Saito the Second Coming, which we will get to in a second, in my opinion. Yellow Saitama. This is a deck where people still keep bringing it. It is a 10k double attacker that is unaffected, so your opponent just has to just accept it and always set aside a chump blocker. So people keep bringing this to regionals. So I can see somebody, they still are playing it and still doing well with it, that it can go far. Yellow Rappy. I think yellow counters is probably like one of the strong combo decks that we have in this game. I honestly, watching my teammates Ming and Gutless play this deck, where they have turns where they're like, hey, we're gonna set up 7 to like it'd be like 5 to 7 damage. If they're really crazy, somehow they have 9 damage with enough multi swingers and neons. You're like, bro, calm down. So this is a deck where, like, if you're not prepared for it and you don't know the gimmick of what it does and you don't have good enough removal, this deck will run you over. So I have to put some respect on it because it is a deck that my teammates have played and is a deck that I believe they can do well with if they decide to play it. Then we have Yellow Mina. I still think Yellow Mina, Reno, Yellow Mina, Yellow Kikur, like all the yellow Kaiju decks, like with a good pilot and a good understanding of like when to like push your advantage and when to like go for it. This deck is very strong and very oppressive in my opinion. This deck was one of the scariest decks I played in LCQ when I won the LCQ back in Vegas. But overall, I think this deck is still suited well. Some of these decks don't really have an early game, like Spear, GGO, and some of the above decks. So just having a deck that can like take advantage of the early game and then have a good late game with the Mina raids, being able to stun things, is just, in my opinion, very strong. And yellow color trigger is very strong. So I can see it going top 64, at least. Then we go green GGO. This is a snipe slash big body deck that I think how it can play into this meta, it can fight into Spear, it can fight into all these other things. You can just give impact across your board so your opponent gets punished for trying to block, or they just take the damage, or you can snipe and take off like the good cards that your opponent has. And overall, I think it is pilot dependent, but there's sometimes where like the deck just sees 6-drop Xenon Raid, which spits out a body, which then does another 6-drop Xenon Raid, which spits out another body. Then you play a final, then you play like a snipe, then you have like a photon sword, and now you have like impact on 3 different bodies, you're sniping one. So overall, I think this deck is good, and sometimes it will just walk you through the game if your opponent doesn't have removal. And if you stick a Kirito at any point, every time you snipe or kill a body, now Kirito's damage to impact 1, so your opponent's even more incentivized to block and still take damage. Purple Song, this is a deck near and dear to my heart. I love this deck. But with Red Kenshin still around, it's still a deck that I don't feel comfortable bringing. It's just not a deck I want to play and just have like a matchup that I really have to like try and keep the aggression up or I just lose. I don't think it's a completely losing matchup, but it is not an easy matchup. And when we're playing these 9-10 round tournaments, I don't want to have to think if I have to play a Kenshin 6 of those 9 rounds. Then we're going to go purple progressive. I think this deck low-key is the best multi-swing deck we have in the game. Besides like high roll Red Kenshin. Like, I think the fact that you can like lock a card out of your opponent's board, be like, hey, this can't block, and then I have a 5k impact swing, I have a 4k that can't be blocked by 2k or less, then I'm going to restand it. I have a double damager that I can restand, and all these minusing, so you can actually fight the spear boards, you can fight the 5k boards. And then late game you have the Argo color that you can ditch 2 cards, can't be blocked by 4k higher, which is very relevant in these in-game boards that we get into. I think that card is very strong, but I think because of like how it searches and sometimes can bottom deck your stuff, that there is a progressive song hybrid. That is another thing that my team has looked at and done, where you are playing like at least one of the songs special, because that song special lets you get back the Asuna raid or your Mito raid, whatever you're missing, and then you can like free play like the color Kirito trigger if you are playing it, or like a Asuna from the Survivor side, which can just get impact. So you just have the card in hand, and then you just get to get a card back, free play a body, which is very strong. So it is a deck that I think can definitely top 32 or better. Then we're going to go purple Chihiro, purple Iori. I think this deck is interesting in what it can do, because you can have a 4k swing, mill your special off the top, and then end up removing a body, Iori being a 5k blocker. Bless me. Oh. It's definitely very strong. But I think some of the decks above this do what it is trying to do a bit better or a bit faster. Next, this is what we call Saito the Second Coming. This is going to be the Shadow Army from Solo Leveling. It is a 12 cost raid with Snipe Impact, switches with body, so it's kind of like what Saito's kind of do, but it's not as low to the ground as Saito is. Doesn't have like the spamming doublers or the early push that Saito has, but you do have a lot of disposable bodies being your Shadow Soldiers, which are just making sure you're surveilling 2 every turn, which is just looking at the top, put a Jinwoo or another Shadow Army into the trash so you can keep going, make sure you're drawing cards you actually want to draw. With Tusk and Kaisel also being able to just give you filter or give you unblockable, you're always chipping one through most of the time. The special, if you are playing a 2-2 split like I think you should be playing with Mutilations and Shadow Monarchs. Mutilations let you deal spear or bodies that you desperately need to make sure you're getting rid of if you don't have the raid. And then Shadow Monarch being to let you like pay 5 and 1 to play like an Igris active, which then plays a Shadow Soldier, so you're literally paying 1 AP for 2 bodies. Or you can like play a Bearer active, or you can play a Kaisel in the back and something to the front, raid your 12 drop, stand the 2 up. Very strong in that aspect of it. I think this deck is solid. I think there's other solo leveling decks that are a little bit better in this in my opinion. But overall, I think it is a solid deck and will at least get you top 32 if you put the time and learn your lines with it. Next, we're going to get into top 16. I think Red Ava, this is a deck where you have to put time into it, but also a deck that is very warped if you don't see color Shinji. If you don't see the color Shinji, which is your doubler, and you run out of Shinji targets, because like the little Shinjis are just not enough half the time because you're just playing Ray spam, it can definitely be a little rough, especially when like say like your last 2 life or 2 color Shinjis, 1 color Shinji at like the bottom, maybe you have one in your hand, you just haven't had a way to discard it yet because you need to block with your force block ray. That overall, if you get 1 color Shinji in the trash, this deck I think operates fine. I think you just need to learn your lines and when you can like push the button to like clear your opponent's board and go for it. It is a deck that can threaten 4 or 5 swings, while 3 of those swings, well, at least 1 of those swings is protected. So definitely a deck that I think more people will try and pick up since it did win Worlds and it did do well at Nationals. Shout out to Joey. He beat me with like one of the craziest high rolls on Red Ava ever. I never seen 6 removals in 2 turns, dying on turn 4. It was kind of solid all, but he really like said, hey, look, if somebody puts time into the deck, we already had Gutless and Ming and Sarah looking at it, but we ended up not taking it because we just thought Spear was better at the pick. But Joey really showing us like, hey, look, there is other people besides us that are looking at this deck. And overall, I think the deck is solid. I don't think it's better than our top 8 decks, but that's just because where I think the meta sits, and when I want consistency, I don't want to be looking for just exactly 1 card. Red Chihiro. I've been playing with Haven's Lofi a lot, and he really is a big advocate for this deck. If Spear was in the meta, I think this would be like one of the top 8 decks immediately. If Spear was not in this list, I can definitely see Red Chihiro right up here with it. But Spear is in this meta, and it kind of just makes a hard time for Chihiro to ever really develop and answer the boards that Spear just keeps putting out. So for that is why I have it at top 16. But for everything else, I think Red Chihiro is definitely a good call into our current meta right this moment. And then we have Green Cha. Green Jeju Island is probably one of the most consistent turn 3 decks I will ever say right now. In all the testing we've done the last 2.5 weeks, this deck always has a good turn 3, good turn 4. But the problem is, if you're playing into heavy board removal decks, that once you give all your gas out, and it's kind of like the Red Kensher problem, you put it all on the line, and if your opponent has an answer, you're gonna have to take a turn to reset up your gas. Where if you put it all on the line, your opponent has nothing, you're probably winning the next turn, 100%. Like that, like this deck has some of the scariest turns I've seen. Green Cha just being a Red Kenshin double attacker 5k, because you don't need anything, you can just discard a card to restand it anyways. Like, just having a 5k double attack is very, very strong, in my opinion. Then we have Green Toshi. The only reason why this isn't higher, I don't think enough people are bringing it because binder cards are expensive. Binder cards are good. People want to play it. But some of these decks, stunning things, just doesn't matter. Like, Toshi Stun is still one of the most egregious things in this game. But overall, some decks, you could Toshi Stun them and be like, I don't care. And, like, the Kenpachi not being able to be minus, sure. Some people don't care. They just have hard removal. Sure, you discard a card, that's eating cards out of your hand and answering your body. Like, so I can still see it do good because it is just like, hey, you can lock out most of your opponent's board and just try to go in for a lot of damage. But we have better decks that could just kind of punish your opponent's board. Now, top 8, or what I think will be winning Virginia, these 4 decks I think are the strongest decks we have in UA right now. Outside of some pilots on certain decks. That's how I'll word it. Red Kenshin, still a very strong deck. Just not killing things, always pushing back. Has a bottom deck special, so that's also not killing things. It's just a very strong, if you play against Red Rays, instead of killing the things, you bottom deck the double blockers. Guess what? They don't get draws. So then they're not free playing a body. They don't get extra cards. Like, this deck gets saved by its draws, and if you take that away, it dies. Red Chihiro, you take the rage, you put it on the bottom of the deck, they're suffering. Especially if they only have, like, one name, like they have all Hikaris, it means they can't put the Togo out. They need a Chihiro to do this. Cha, you put the raids on the bottom, or, like, anything that they try to, like, one of their, like, they're like, oh, my Choi is stunned, so you have no reason to special it. But if you special it anyways, well, there goes part of the removal. It's gone, whatever. You take the Toshis and you bottom deck the Toshis instead of killing them. That means they're 1-drop Toshi that grabs a Toshi out the trash. They don't have a target for it anymore, so you're fine. Yellow girls bottom decking the Maris or Asukas just to get them off the board is fine. The Rays just kind of counter this. Spear, bottom decking Spear makes it so it's like the last card in their deck, so they don't have it. There's a lot of decks where, like, just bottom decking as a special is very strong. So, and I still think Pushback Raid is probably one of the best defensive raids in the game. Just hitting it out of life, going, hey, push that guy back, and I have a 4k block. Very strong. Spear, tried and true, we all know this. Draws 8 million cards, plays a giant body that plays more bodies, that draws you more cards. Has a special that is searchable, that is also a draw trash. This deck has everything. This deck is very strong. This deck, on average, you're always going to see at least half of your deck. So I don't see any reason why people wouldn't play this, especially if you're trying to top the first regional. It is a deck where you can play the Mari variant like I am. You can play the 13 variant, or you could just play a pure build like some people have been playing and still get some success out of it. It's a deck where, if just like the Cha deck, just like Red Chihiro, where it is decks that if you do your thing and your opponent has nothing, your next turn is mostly just draw, AP, draw, turn everything sideways again, because you didn't have to waste anything. Like, you have no reason to, like, dig more. It is a very strong deck that in some games can autopilot you. Other games you do need to think when you're playing against good people. Like, huge shout out to Edward from LCQ. We played in the 8th round, and we had, like, probably one of the best spear mirrors I think I've had in a long time. It came literally down to the final turns, and it was very enjoyable. I wish I would have got to play Day 2 Nationals so I could play another round with him. But we'll have to wait and see if I get to see him again this year. New Kid on the Block / the deck that I think is just one of the craziest decks to come out besides Spear in a while. And that is Purple Demon Castle, or as I like to call it, Sung Jin Woo and Friends. This deck is absurdly consistent and does kind of what Spear does, but in a different way. So, because the 1-drop Essel is every time you add it back, it is draw a card, trash a card, and most of the time you're trashing the Essel. The raids, the 4-drop and the 5-drop, are getting 500 BP for every 5 cards in your trash. So you get to fight those numbers like Spear has. Like, Spear could be like, oh, I'm a 5k. You're like, okay, I'm a 6k. I'm a 65. I'm a 7k. Like, you can... I've gone up to 7k some late game boards, but most of the time you're at least 6k, which means Spear's not free blocking you. You also have the purple Cha, that is a color trigger, that says if you have 10 or more cards in trash, you can't be blocked by 4k or higher. So when Spirit goes, hey, I filled the whole board, you go, okay, I'm going to poke you with this Cha that you can't block. And they're like, oh, well, that's a problem. And then if they special the Cha, you're like, okay, Elixir or a Sungjin Woo raid with 20 in the trash is just going to play the Cha back out. And I think that's probably one of the best in-game boards we can make right now for closing out games, is like you have like a 4-drop on board, the 4-drop raid, another random 4k, and then you raid 2 force blocks. Well, that means you have 6 swings that turn. You have if you have a 4-drop raid, that's probably 6k. You have the 4-drop, that's a 4k. Then you have 2 force blocks that are 6k impact that are going to play 2 Chas out that are 4ks that can't be blocked by 4k or more. So you just eat 2 of your opponent's bodies, take them 2 damage, you play 2 Chas out, they take another 2 damage, and you still have 2 more swings that they have to block or take. Like, I think this is probably one of the strongest decks I've seen in a while. Elixir also, like, being able to add any card back that this deck plays, plus draw a card, and then Demon Castle, late game, being able to tap an AP to just copy the Elixir, add a card back, draw a card, is just so strong. And I think it is a good resource of deck. And in our testing, it literally competes with Spear. It is like, oh, Spear drew like 6 cards. Watch me. I'm going to draw like 6 cards. Spear drew like 7 cards. I'm going to draw like 6 cards, plus remove a body. Maybe looked at some more. Like, you're not drawing exactly as much as Spear's high roll can. Like, Spear's high roll can draw like 12 plus cards a turn. But like Mills, I think with 2 4-drops plus 2 5-drops, like, you're drawing like 8 plus cards a turn. And that's, like, not if you see any way to, like, keep going. And overall, like, I think this deck is a serious contender for the rest of the year going forward. Definitely don't think this deck isn't a contender. This deck will literally just roll you. And into our board building decks, Chihiro, Kenshin, Cha, Toshi, Yellow Girls, this deck has force block and then has removal built in. So we're back to 8 removals instead of just like 4 removals. And that's good enough. Like, I'll take your whole board off, tell you to rebuild your board, and I'll do it again next turn. Because if you kill my force blocker, I'm going to play Elixir, grab my force blocker back, and do it all over again. I can trade body for body with you. But the best part is, if you keep killing my bodies, you're filling my trash up, which is getting me closer to my end game, which is better than your end game. Yellow Girls, this is still a very solid deck. Teammate Tan took it, did well. Plenty of people took it to Nationals, did well. It is probably still one of the strongest decks in the game. That's why it is up here in the top 4 for my win/top 8 tier. Just having a 4k double attacker telling on a body that draws, a 5k impactor that also blows up a body, a 4-drop body that no matter what happens to it, if it gets removed, bottom decked, bounced, specialed, will play another body out. It's just also still very strong. And I think that is just a very strong deck. I think people like Jane, like Tan, people who put time in this deck and like understand the lines, like, this is a deck that you always will have to be worried about it. But overall, this is where I think soul leveling will fall into our meta. Now you may ask, where's green level up in this? This deck will, unless you are a very good pilot, I do not think green level up touches top 64. The deck is a little clunky on what it tries to do, and a well-timed special or just not giving up life early makes it so the 6-drop raids aren't really pressuring you that much. Don't get me wrong, I really like the deck. I want to try and do something with it, but I'm having a lot more fun playing Demon Castle, Sungjin Woo, and friends. This deck is very strong, and it's been a good break away from Spear. But this is where I think the meta will be for Virginia / We'll have Sakamoto before Peoria. So I'll do another list when we start doing our Sakamoto testing. But for right now, where D3 is and where we've talked about it, most people on the team consist of, like, these are kind of where decks are and like where the solos are. Like, this deck's probably the strongest solo leveling deck that came out. These two decks are kind of interchangeable. This one's going to be a little more consistent because you're going to see more pieces. But the potential of just like having a consistent turn 3 that if your opponent doesn't answer means you win on turn 4. Like, I can't put this any lower than top 16 because a good pilot with a good run that day will just always have it. And as we saw at LCQ and Nats, all it takes is having one good day and you can go the whole way. But I'd like to hear your guys' feedback. If you think I'm wrong, let me know. But I will tell you, I think us as D3 have tested a whole bunch, and we're ready to show you the results of at least these 3 decks. We do have players that are probably taking these 3 decks to Virginia, so we could show you guys that we think these decks are very solid. I will put some list up in the coming days of where I think the list kind of could be, but these aren't finalized lists, but it's what I am, and talking about the list in general and the card selection and why we are playing certain cards, certain ratios. But until then, this is Legit Vocals signing off, everybody. I hope you guys have a great day.